There is a habit so quiet that most men overlook it. It does not announce itself with applause. It does not trend on social media. It rarely receives public credit, yet it has built fortunes, reputations, and influence for those who practice it daily. You will not find this habit in loud ambition alone, nor in talent, nor in lucky timing. It hides in the margins of effort, just beyond what is required, just past what is expected, just outside the line where most people stop. Have you ever noticed how the majority do exactly enough to avoid criticism? Enough to meet the standard, enough to collect the paycheck, enough to remain average without being questioned. That is the invisible ceiling most never break. The unstoppable man breaks it quietly. He does not argue about fairness. He does not measure effort by obligation. He gives more than he is paid for, more than he is praised for, more than he is required to give. And at first no one notices. This is why it is powerful. Because the world expects minimal compliance, it does not expect excess value. When you consistently deliver beyond expectation, you become difficult to ignore. Let me ask you something direct. When your task is complete, do you stop or do you refine? When you are compensated, do you relax or do you elevate the standard again? The habit of going beyond what is required reshapes your identity. It trains your mind to operate at a higher level of discipline. It makes excellence feel normal rather than exceptional. Most men hesitate to do more than they are paid for. They fear exploitation. They fear being overlooked. They calculate fairness before contribution, and in doing so, they limit themselves. But the quiet habit I speak of changes that equation entirely. It builds skill faster. It builds trust deeper. It builds opportunity silently. The world does not reward effort instantly. It observes consistency. When you repeatedly exceed expectation, you create a reputation that precedes you into rooms you have not yet entered. This habit strengthens character. It reduces resentment. It removes the victim mentality that traps so many in stagnation. When you choose to give more, you reclaim power. It also conditions your subconscious. You begin expecting more from yourself. You sharpen attention to detail. You improve standards even when no one is watching. Have you ever met someone whose work carries unmistakable quality, whose presence feels disciplined? That impression was not built overnight. It was built in small daily decisions to go further. The quiet habit multiplies confidence. Because when you know you consistently give your best and then some, doubt weakens. Self-respect grows. You are no longer competing with others. You are competing with your previous standard. And that internal competition creates unstoppable momentum. The majority quit when the requirement ends. The unstoppable continue when others rest. Not out of desperation, but out of identity. Identity is powerful. When you see yourself as someone who always goes beyond, you stop negotiating with laziness. You stop justifying mediocrity. This habit also builds unexpected alliances. People gravitate toward reliability. They trust consistency. They remember those who contribute without complaint. Over time, doors open that seemed unrelated to your current effort. Promotions, partnerships, opportunities that appear coincidental but are actually cumulative reward. It does not require dramatic change. It requires daily extension. A little more preparation, a little more refinement, a little more service than is demanded. Most men want dramatic breakthroughs. They ignore the quiet habit that creates them. In this lesson, you will discover how to practice this discipline intentionally, how to apply it in your career, your relationships, your goals, and why it compounds faster than any shortcut. The unstoppable man is not louder. He is steadier. He goes the extra mile daily, and eventually the road belongs to him. There is a line drawn around every task. It is not always visible, but it is felt. It is the line of requirement. It represents what must be done to avoid criticism, to collect compensation, to remain within expectation. The majority of men approach that line carefully, fulfill its demand, and stop. They feel justified in doing so. They believe fairness has been satisfied. Yet just beyond that line lies a territory rarely explored. It is the realm of excess service. It is not dramatic. It is not celebrated immediately. It is quiet, but it is decisive. Compliance fulfills obligation. Contribution creates distinction. Most men comply. Few contribute. And this difference, more than talent or opportunity, separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. The habit of giving more than paid for operates under a natural law. For every act of service rendered beyond expectation, there is a return. That return may not arrive instantly. It may not come from the source you expect, but it comes. This is the law of increasing returns applied to character. The majority unconsciously adopt the just enough standard. They perform duties precisely as instructed. They guard their energy carefully. They calculate fairness before effort. In doing so, they protect themselves from immediate exploitation. Yet they also imprison themselves within invisible limits. The invisible ceiling is not imposed by employers or circumstance. It is self-imposed through minimal compliance. When you consistently deliver only what is required, you train others to expect nothing more from you. An expectation shapes opportunity. Andrew Carnegie observed his employees carefully. He noted not merely who completed tasks, but who assumed responsibility without being directed. He watched who volunteered for difficulty and who avoided it. Promotion followed the volunteer. The man who goes the extra mile at first receives little notice. This stage discourages many. There is no applause for unseen refinement. There is no immediate reward for quiet preparation. Yet in this stage, identity is being shaped. When you choose to give more than required, even when unseen, your subconscious mind records the act. Self-respect grows. You begin to see yourself as someone who exceeds expectation. This internal shift is more powerful than immediate praise. Reputation forms slowly. It is constructed from repeated observation. Others may not comment upon your additional effort at once, but they observe patterns. They note thoroughness. They remember reliability. The man who refines a report before submission, who prepares beyond necessity, who studies beyond requirement, is laying foundation for influence he cannot yet see. 10 years may be saved by forming this habit early. Instead of waiting for recognition before elevating effort, you elevate effort to create recognition. 20 years may be saved by sustaining it when reward appears delayed. 30 may be saved by never abandoning it, even when promotion lags. The quiet habit strengthens discipline. It trains the mind to operate above average standard. Excellence becomes natural rather than forced. Fear of being overlooked prevents many from practicing this discipline. They ask, why should I give more when others give less? Yet the question reveals short vision. Comparison traps ambition. When you measure yourself against the lowest acceptable standard, you remain within it. When you measure yourself against your highest potential, you transcend it. The extra mile is seldom crowded because few are willing to walk without immediate applause. Most seek recognition before contribution. The unstoppable man contributes first. Consider the example of the newsboy who not only delivered newspapers but increased subscriptions by courteous service and additional effort. He was not asked to do so. Yet his excess service multiplied his income and influence. Excess service refines skill faster than compliance ever could. When you extend effort beyond obligation, you practice more than others. Practice produces mastery. Mastery produces opportunity. Others begin to describe you differently. They may say, he can be trusted. She always goes further. These words travel quietly from one person to another. They precede opportunity. The subconscious mind thrives on repeated conduct. When you consistently exceed requirement, you no longer negotiate with laziness. You no longer argue with comfort. Identity shifts toward discipline. Affirm daily. I render more service than is required of me. I increase my value continually. My rewards return multiplied and in due season. Repeat this until it feels natural. Repetition conditions expectation. Expectation strengthens consistency. The habit of excess service reduces resentment. You cease focusing on fairness. You focus on growth. Growth replaces grievance. In time, opportunities appear that seem unrelated to your current effort. A recommendation arrives. A responsibility is entrusted. A partnership is offered. These are not accidents. They are cumulative responses to observed reliability. Most men desire dramatic advancement. They ignore the quiet discipline that produces it. They search for sudden breakthroughs while neglecting daily extension. The unstoppable man is not louder. He is steadier. He refines when others rest. He prepares when others relax. He gives more than is demanded, even when no one applauds. Eventually, the world takes notice. Not because you demanded it, but because your value became undeniable. If you wish to save 10 years of waiting for recognition, begin now. If you desire to save 20, persist when unnoticed. If you intend to save 30, make this habit permanent. The road beyond requirement belongs to those willing to walk it alone at first. And though it may appear empty at the beginning, it leads invariably to distinction. The extra mile is not crowded. That is precisely why it leads to mastery. Choose it daily, and you will discover that what seemed like excess effort was in truth the quiet path to becoming unstoppable. There is a moment in every task when it appears finished. The requirement has been met, the obligation satisfied, the instruction obeyed. At that moment, most men close the book, lay down the tools, and turn their attention elsewhere. They believe completion is enough. They have crossed the visible line. They feel justified in stopping. Yet the unstoppable man pauses at that same moment and asks a different question. Not, is it done? But can it be improved? That single question separates finishing from refining, and refinement practiced daily produces excellence that cannot be ignored. Completion satisfies obligation. Refinement satisfies ambition. The majority pursue the first. The minority pursue the second. This difference compounds over time in ways that appear dramatic to the observer, but are quiet in origin. Refinement does not require grand gestures. It requires attention, a second review, a sharper edit, a clearer explanation, a smoother method. It is the discipline of correcting small imperfections before they become habits. King Gillette did not release the first crude version of his safety razor as final. He refined repeatedly. He corrected, adjusted, strengthened. His patience with improvement transformed a simple idea into a lasting enterprise. Refinement multiplied the value of the original concept. The man who refines trains his mind differently from the man who merely completes. He begins to see details others overlook. He notices inefficiencies. He detects roughness. His perception sharpens because he has conditioned it to search for improvement. Ask yourself, when your work appears finished, do you close it immediately, or do you examine it with fresh eyes? The habit of examination strengthens judgment. It builds mastery gradually. Refinement builds identity quietly. When you review and improve consistently, you begin to expect excellence from yourself. Mediocrity feels uncomfortable. Carelessness becomes intolerable. Your internal standard rises above requirement. Others begin to associate your name with quality. They may not articulate the reason, but they sense thoroughness. They trust your work. They delegate with confidence. Trust compounds more rapidly than praise. Consider how many years are lost to repeated small errors. A man who never refines repeats the same mistake indefinitely. A man who corrects immediately prevents repetition. 10 years may be saved by eliminating a single recurring flaw. The discipline of refinement extends beyond visible tasks. It includes speech, planning, conduct. After a conversation, you may ask, was I clear? After a plan, was it precise? This quiet review sharpens effectiveness. Refinement strengthens patience. It requires willingness to delay immediate rest for future advantage. The majority crave completion. The minority pursue correction. The compounding effect of daily improvement is extraordinary. A small enhancement repeated over a decade produces dramatic superiority. 20 years of disciplined refinement establish authority. 30 create legacy. The difference between good and excellent is often invisible in a single instance. It becomes unmistakable in accumulation. Many resist refinement because it appears excessive. They say, "It is good enough." Yet good enough rarely produces distinction. It produces adequacy. Adequacy is crowded territory. The extra mile includes refinement. It is not only doing more tasks, it is doing each task better than required. Observe the craftsman whose work bears unmistakable quality. His joints are smooth, his lines are straight, his finish gleams. That impression was not built in a single effort. It was built through thousands of quiet corrections. When you refine consistently, self-confidence grows from evidence. You know that you have examined your work carefully. Doubt weakens because negligence is absent. Affirm daily, "I improve everything I touch. Excellence is my standard. I refine before I rest." Repetition of this affirmation conditions your mind to expect improvement as natural. Expectation guides behavior. Guard against complacency. Success itself may tempt you to reduce effort. Recognition may encourage relaxation. Yet refinement must continue. For the moment improvement ceases, decline begins. The unstoppable man is never satisfied with mere completion. He seeks elevation. He refines his methods. He strengthens his results. He sharpens his skill. Over years, this discipline saves decades. Instead of correcting errors after failure, you correct them immediately. Instead of learning through painful repetition, you learn through deliberate adjustment. Imagine the difference between two men of equal talent. One completes tasks and stops. The other completes and refines. 10 years later, the second possesses mastery. The first remains competent but indistinct. Reputation follows refinement. Word spreads quietly. His work is thorough. Her preparation is precise. Such descriptions carry weight. Refinement builds invisible authority. It signals seriousness. It demonstrates respect for detail. If you desire to become unstoppable, cultivate the habit of reviewing your effort. Ask the final question others neglect. How can this be better? Do not wait for criticism to correct you. Correct yourself. Self-correction accelerates growth beyond measure. 10 years saved by disciplined review, 20 by sustained elevation of standard, 30 by refusing to accept mediocrity as sufficient. The world may not applaud refinement immediately, yet it rewards its results inevitably. Completion closes a task. Refinement opens advancement. Practice it daily, and you will discover that what seemed a small adjustment has, over time, constructed a reputation that cannot be rivaled. There is a quiet resistance in many men when the subject of excess service is raised. They fear exploitation. They fear that if they give more than required, someone will benefit unfairly from their effort. This fear, though understandable, becomes a chain around advancement. The arithmetic of fairness is often miscalculated. The man who insists upon exact equality between effort and reward limits his growth to visible compensation. He overlooks the invisible returns: skill, reputation, influence, trust. Service, when chosen deliberately, is not submission. It is strategy. Every voluntary act of contribution strengthens your capacity. It sharpens skill. It deepens reliability. It multiplies opportunity. The habit of assuming responsibility without title transforms position into platform. When you solve problems not assigned to you, you expand your influence beyond description. Consider the young employee who reorganizes a disordered system without being asked. He has not been promoted, yet he behaves as if responsible. In doing so, he becomes indispensable. History is filled with men who advanced not because they waited for recognition, but because they rendered service beyond instruction. They assumed tasks others ignored. They solved difficulties others avoided. When service is voluntary, resentment dissolves. You are no longer calculating who owes you what. You are building strength intentionally. Growth replaces grievance. The victim mentality is subtle. It whispers, "Why should I give more when others give less?" Yet that comparison traps you within the lowest common standard. Discard grievance early and you save years of stagnation. 10 years may vanish in quiet resentment. 20 in waiting to be treated fairly before contributing fully. 30 in blaming circumstance instead of expanding value. The invisible network built through reliability is powerful. People remember who assisted without complaint. They speak your name in rooms you have not entered. Recommendations travel faster than self-promotion. Trust accumulates slowly but decisively. Once established, it becomes currency more valuable than money. Trust opens doors silently. The spirit of service strengthens character. It trains the mind to operate from abundance rather than scarcity. You begin to see opportunity in every task. Service is not merely action, it is attitude. When you approach work with willingness rather than reluctance, your tone changes. Others sense enthusiasm. Charles M. Schwab became known for his encouragement and readiness to contribute. His spirit of service elevated morale and increased productivity. Influence followed naturally. Do not confuse service with weakness. It requires strength to give willingly. It requires confidence to invest effort without immediate applause. When you give more than required, you build skill faster. Practice multiplies ability. Ability multiplies value. Value multiplies opportunity. Affirm daily. I serve beyond requirement. My service strengthens me. I invest in my growth through contribution. Repeat this until service feels empowering rather than burdensome. Guard against bitterness. Bitterness corrodes effort. It diminishes quality. Replace it with deliberate generosity. The unstoppable man views each opportunity to serve as training ground. He does not wait for title to assume responsibility. He behaves as if already elevated. Over time, elevation follows behavior. Promotion often recognizes patterns already demonstrated. Imagine two individuals of equal talent. One performs only assigned duties. The other seeks additional ways to contribute. 10 years later, the difference in influence is unmistakable. Service also deepens alliances. When you assist others sincerely, loyalty forms, cooperation strengthens, collective progress accelerates. The quiet habit of voluntary contribution reduces fear. When you know you have invested fully, insecurity weakens. Self-respect increases. 10 years saved by abandoning grievance. 20 by adopting strategic generosity. 30 by sustaining willingness across career. Remember that every act of service plants seed. Not every seed sprouts immediately. Yet the field of effort never remains barren indefinitely. When opportunity appears sudden, it is often cumulative. It is the visible harvest of invisible contributions. You cannot always choose the timing of reward, but you can choose the quality of service. Choose abundance over calculation. Choose contribution over complaint. Choose responsibility over reluctance. For in doing so, you convert ordinary tasks into instruments of advancement. And the quiet spirit of service, practiced daily, becomes one of the strongest foundations of becoming truly unstoppable. There is a rivalry that weakens and a rivalry that strengthens. The rivalry that weakens is comparison with others. It breeds envy, insecurity, and distraction. The rivalry that strengthens is comparison with your former self. It produces growth without bitterness, When you measure yourself constantly against neighbors, you surrender peace. You chase their pace, their rewards, their recognition. You forget your own direction. This form of competition scatters attention. The unstoppable man competes quietly with yesterday. He asks, "Did I improve?" rather than, "Did I surpass another?" This question directs energy inward, where control resides. Henry Ford's success was not rooted in defeating rivals alone. It was rooted in relentless improvement of his own methods. He refined processes, reduced cost, increased efficiency. His rivalry was with inefficiency, not with personalities. Internal rivalry produces calm. When your contest is with your previous standard, there is less anxiety. There is focus. There is discipline. You are not reacting to others' movements. You are refining your own. Each day presents opportunity for slight extension, a clearer explanation, a stronger effort, a sharper decision. These small surpassings accumulate into significant transformation. 10 years may be saved by abandoning envy and embracing self-surpassing. 20 by refusing distraction from comparison. 30 by sustaining internal rivalry across decades. The man who improves daily rarely appears hurried. He appears steady. His growth is consistent because it is rooted in habit rather than reaction. Self-surpassing strengthens confidence because progress is measurable. Even if the world does not applaud, you know you have extended beyond yesterday's limit. Guard against complacency after small success.